This is Studio 809.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website, hikingbob.com, which has links to everything. I'm not going to bore you with all the social media addresses. Go to hikingbob.com, click on the links, and you will find me there. And send me an email, drop me a line, subscribe to my newsletter, all that stuff at hikingbob.com. Today we got a couple of guests. We usually don't have two guests at the same time, but today we're doing something a little differently.
Hello.
We have Matt Meister and Mary Matthews, who recently joined Matt at Peaks2Plains Weather. Mm-hmm. Both of you are alumni. Matt going way back from KRDO TV.
Oh, yeah.
Going way back.
I forget about that sometimes.
Yeah. Right. Mary just left there a little bit ago, and then and I kind of saw the handwriting on the wall going,
I know, a lot of people did.
I know. I don't think he's the only one that said that, right?
Yeah. Mary's leaving KRDO, and when Matt and I talked back in December, just before you kicked this off, you talked about the possibility of, we discussed bringing people, somebody else on.
Building a business,
Yeah. I wasn't an investigator in my earlier life for nothing. I did pick up on a few things, how to read clues and pick up on things. And I'm texting Matt going, I know what's going on. I see what's going on here. Anyway, Mary, so nice to finally meet you. We've been social media followers of each other for quite a while.
Yeah. Glad to get to meet you in person.
Yeah, it's fun. And so Peaks2Plains Weather has taken off.
Yeah.
Has it even...
I've had some Peaks to Pains days, I can tell you that. I've definitely had some of those.
Has it exceeded even your expectations? I mean, you had some pretty good expectations going forward.
Well, I mean, I'm somebody that shoots for perfection. I'm like Mary, right? But yes, I do project this stuff out. We forecast weather, so we forecast other things in life too. But yeah, man, app downloads, usage of things, how people are using it, how long they're staying on, has certainly surpassed our expectations. And it's been really neat to, 5 months in, bring on a partner who is doing this new thing with me together. And I think she'll tell you that she has enjoyed serving the community in a way that is, I think, better than we've been able to do before. Right. And so it's kind of where things are going. I mean, Peaks2Plains Weather is where people are when they want information, how they expect information nowadays. So whether you want to watch in an easy chair, you can do so on Roku. If you're out on the go, we've got an app. Some people's, digital experience is social media, and we're on there as well, particularly when the weather's high impact or life-threatening. And so Peaks2Plains Weather is wherever you are, whenever you want it. And as we say, it's our weather together. And I don't mean me and Mary. I mean, us and the community. We think about it as like neighbors helping neighbors and putting our arms around each other and walking through, storms and things. And it's going great. Having direct communication. Yeah, it's really, really fun.
Because that's what weather's about. It's just talking to each other, sharing. I mean, because it's a shared experience. We all go through the same experience. Right. Just because we're forecasting it and we're meteorologists doesn't really make our experience that much different. Right. So we need to be connected to the viewers. And then this way, it puts us in that direct line of communication. It's really great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been fun watching it. We released the podcast the day it came out, and a lot of people hit that. And I'm not saying I have anything to do with how fast you've grown.
You do the checks in the mail, Bob.
I've had nothing to do with it, but I was so excited to be able to put that out the same day that everything got. Actually, we did it the day before. The next day it started, and just watching it start. And we've got it on our Roku TVs. We have it on our phones. We've got it bookmarked on our following on our YouTube channels. On our computers at home. So it's been great watching it. I've been away for a couple of months, but it still was pinging on me. And it would actually, the backbone of that was actually following me down there.
Right, so it still works. Yeah, I was actually talking to a group today. It's called the Energy Resource Center. And they go into homes. They tend to, it's sort of a, public service kind of thing, go into lower income homes. And they do insulation and that sort of thing. And they have 5 offices around Colorado. And so they are going to share the Peaks2Plains Weather app with their team because it does. It works up in Sterling. It works up in Denver. It works across the country. I had a buddy who was deployed to Qatar, and he just got back last week. It didn't work in Qatar. which I think, but most of the world it will work.
Close.
And
To be expected.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm imagining there's probably a lot of things of ours that may not
Well,
work
that's
there.
probably right also. Bob.
I mean, but we're probably not far off from it working all around the world. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think it does.
Yeah.
So it's been great watching it grow. It's where I go to watch, and I like that the one thing you and I talked about when you kicked us off was it's immediate. It's not constrained by programming that you have to squeeze into other programming at a TV station. Okay. We recently had some severe weather come through, and you guys were all over it nonstop. This weather's coming. It turned out, as happens in Colorado, probably not to be as big as everybody was anticipating.
Well, I will say it was pretty dang close to what we said.
But
there were some crazy numbers out there, and we were way under that, and we were trying to make that point.
Yeah.
And I think that experience that we have
Right.
is something that makes a difference versus maybe, people just getting here going, oh my gosh, none of these meteorology things I learned in the classroom work, right? But yeah, and so even those times where we may get it wrong, but it's get in there, how is it changing? Right. Why is it different than we thought? Because we have time to talk about that.
And the difference was if you were tied to TV, traditional TV broadcasting, you saw the weather forecast in the morning. You might have gotten 5 minutes of it at the noon broadcast if they do one, and then 6 hours later at the evening broadcast. That's a lot of time when in Colorado, weather can take all these different turns.
Oh, yeah.
Where you guys, with this system, with Peaks2Plains, you can be, oh, no, wait a minute, this is changing, and do an update right then and there, which
Push
you
to
guys
your
were
phone.
doing quite a bit.
Yeah. Push it right to your phone.
Right. And then bam, it pops up like, oh, wait a minute, this may be worse. This may be not as bad. This may be exactly what we were saying it's going to be. So I think the immediacy of accounting for the changes in this freaky weather that we have here.
Right.
I just spent 2 months in Phoenix, and basically the weather was, it's going to be hot.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
I don't.
Tomorrow's
going to
be hotter.
Bored out of my mind, right?
Yeah. It'd be like being the weather person in San Diego. Yeah, it's going to be 85 and breezy. Done. Just go home.
I think we're really going to see, and not to put the cart in front of the horse too much here, but I think we're going to see the benefits of Peaks2Plains and having access on your phone as we get into the summer. As patterns do change, as the atmosphere does respond to El Nino, and you are out camping. Now, as long as there's cell service, right? But having access to where we might have debris flow, where we might have flash flooding, all of that is really beneficial. You need other components to stay safe when you're out camping and doing things like that. But, people are outdoors in Colorado all year long, but especially in the summer.
Right.
So that's going to be a really big game changer, we think.
Great point.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's coming. We've had an unbelievably dry winter.
Oh yeah.
It is as dry as I've been here 35 years, and I don't think I remember a winter as dry as this. Even the meteorologists saying as far back as they were really keeping good snowpack records.
Right.
Going back to the early 80s when they really got sophisticated in snowpack, they've never seen anything this low. People have already been bicycling up and over Independence Pass, which
is crazy.
Snow should be above the level of the trucks that they usually use to clear it before they open it. So, and now we've had a dry winter. So a lot of these upper elevation places that should be covered under snowpack are not.
Right.
We're going into an El Nino year, which I'll tell you, I'm not sure I understand all of it. I kind of get a little bit of it. And there's some talk about a super El Nino, whatever that means. Half of that sounds like meteorology talk. Half of it sounds like good journalism to get people to click on things. Right. So I've I wrote an article in the bulletin that said, if you're planning your camping trips, the stuff you did later in the year, in the summer, might be accessible early, and stuff you were doing later may not be accessible because of El Nino, but I'm just guessing at what I'm reading. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
What is an El Nino, and what does that actually mean if we're planning recreation June, July, August, September? And then we can even talk later on about what is that going to mean for our winter season?
Right.
And I know we're talking way down the road.
Oh, yeah.
So nothing.
Well, it's good to talk about it now. Yeah.
There's no warranties assigned to this. So you can't come back to me or Matt or Mary and say, you guys are wrong. We're way ahead of things. But this is when you're planning camping trips and hiking trips and backpacking trips. It's good to know what's coming or what may be coming a couple months down the road. So what is an El Nino and what does that mean for us
I think
here?
the easiest way to explain it, without getting into the weeds, is sea surface temperatures in the Eastern Pacific can have a direct correlation on how the behavior of the jet stream. Why is that important? The jet stream is your river of weather. That kind of helps to really ramp up your systems, the frequency of systems that come through, right? When they say a super El Nino, what they're meaning is typically an average El Nino, you'll have, warmer than average?
Right.
Temperatures, that's an El Nino. Cooler than average is La Nina.
Right. You'll
You'll
have it.
You'll have it 1 to 2 degrees warmer than average. They're now measuring 4 degrees warmer than average. I think it's up to 4 degrees.
Right. Is the forecast toward late
so
fall and winter?
People may think, well, that's only 1 or 2 degrees, but 1 degree can make a big, big difference. You go at 4 degrees and you've got that upwelling in the Eastern Pacific and that warm water, that's going to have that correlation, that impact on the jet stream. So that jet stream, we need that jet stream to dig across the Southwest as we get into winter. That's where you get your Albuquerque lows. Mm-hmm. That's your highway or your river of weather. And if we don't get that dip, we don't really get a lot of front range action. And we need that right here along the front range in the Eastern Plains. So when you get the frequency of storms, that's what it's about, right? El Nino is more about the frequency. You can get hit 3-4 times a week with maybe a couple inches here, a couple inches there, and you can still get hammered with some big storms.
Right, that Albuquerque low, which is notorious for big storms here.
But the point is, with La Nina, your river of weather, your highway of weather, it's more so oriented across the Pacific Northwest. And then so you get that diving across the northern part of our state, and guess what that does? It dries us out. Right. So we need that. I think the one thing, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, being a native here, I think the one thing we don't have a lot of data on for the state of Colorado is historically how El Nino responds in the summer. We have a lot of data on the winter.
Right.
So you start talking about monsoon flow, El Nino combined. What are we looking at? The only other point that I will make is one thing I do know with studying La Nina and El Nino is that it takes the atmosphere about 30 to 60 days to respond once El Nino has happened. So let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, they declare it's June 1st. We've got an El Nino. We might not really see the ramifications of that until late July, August. Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah, and I agree with what Mary said. I mean, having been educated here up in Denver for meteorology at Metro State, I mean, there is data to look at. There's just not as much correlation during the summer as there is in the winter for Colorado. But this is a seasonal forecasting is a rapidly growing field of meteorology and climatology. I mean, there weren't too many people even 15 years ago that were doing that. We've learned a lot about these different ocean atmosphere oscillations across the globe in the last 2 decades. And so we're still sort of learning how they interact, which ones drive the weather in different parts of the country in different times of the year. But as Mary said, El Nino there is a correlation in the data to when there is an El Nino, and in particular in the mountains of Colorado, typically an increased snowpack. I was talking to Kyle Mosley, who is sort of the seasonal forecasting guru at the Pueblo Weather Service office. And he made an interesting point that, you brought up Super El Nino, and Mary talked about that as well. It's not a scientific term. It is kind of somebody said it one time because particularly strong, and then, media latched onto it, whatever. But he did say that, if El Nino is too strong, it does impact the jet stream enough in a way where it can be too far south for us to kind of be on that highway that Mary talked about. And so that's something to maybe be a little leery of here in Colorado, because we want an El Nino that's kind of a moderate sort of strength or maybe moderately strong. So that's something that we'll watch for. But the forecasts are for it to be strong and above 2 degrees C, above average on the equator, like Mary mentioned. And so, I mean, it's hard to imagine, Bob, that like we're going to have a worse winter than we are coming out of right now, because it has been historically.
I can't imagine a drier winter than what we've seen.
Right. I've noticed in my time here that I think there is a higher propensity to, especially early in the season and late in the season, because you have that active jet stream, to get a storm that ends up in the right place, that is a maybe once a decade blizzard type thing. I think you do have a higher likelihood of that when there is an El Nino and the jet stream is in the neighborhood, versus like when Mary said La Nina, if it's up to the north, you just don't even have a chance for that to happen. Yeah. And one of those can kind of skew numbers for the entire winter. Right. So things do look up, particularly as we head 26, 27, and maybe even like the back part of the summer, like monsoon, may be a little bit more active than we've had the last few years. Yeah, it is for sure.
I guess with the naming of it, the super El Nino thing, some of that's hype. But when you're talking about an El Nino, is usually a 2-degree rise in temperature.
That's a good.
And when you have 4 degrees, I mean, I can kind of see where people are. That's double.
Sure, right.
And you made the point that doesn't seem like a lot, but you're talking about a temperature change over a really large area.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in
the Eastern Pacific.
Right. The physics that's required to raise the temperature over such a large area, even a couple of degrees, it's a high amount of energy. Is that? Sure. Do I have that right?
I think that's fair.
You're on the right track.
So when you're talking 2 degrees is an El Nino, and now we're talking 4 degrees over a big area. That is a lot of energy. So I kind of see where they came up with the name. Right. I know you don't.
Well, it
agree
was
with
somebody trying to make a point,
right?
And then everybody. I mean, it's just I can't stand the hype machine of stuff.
I think the last time we had an El Nino that was described this way, was it the Godzilla El Nino in because it was the year my son was born, 2016, and we had blizzard after blizzard after blizzard, and I was in Denver, and they called it the Godzilla El Nino. Since then, we had one more El Nino in 2019. Yeah. That was when we had the bomb cyclone. Yeah. And then we went into a three-peat, like a La Nina 3 years in a row. Right. Then we had, I think, an El Nino in 2023, but it was only like 6 months. And then we went back to a La Nina.
Yeah, it was a short one.
It was a very, very short one. So
man, you're better at that than I am. I can't remember 2 days ago, and you're going back like a decade.
Well,
that's impressive.
I think, I would not say I'm a climate expert for anyone listening to this. I'm not trying to put myself in that category, but it was one of my more better subjects in school. And so I remember it, and then I watch how the atmosphere plays out, and I get really excited about it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, if we're going to talk about camping, there's some things that if I were to go camp, I'm having a baby this summer, but like if I were to go camping, there are some things.
Not a big camping summer at your house?
Yeah, it's not. It's going to be in the newborn trenches at my house. But
I could see that not working out real well.
But let's just say that this El Nino kicks in a lot faster. Let's say it enhances our monsoon flow. Let's say you're out camping in the middle of nowhere in Colorado. And you've got flooding and flash flooding, and you're in a camper in the middle of nowhere. You may be in a wash zone that could fill up with water. You don't know those things. What are the 3 things that you're going to have to make sure you can get the information? NOAA weather radio is a good one. You got to have your WEA alerts, your weather emergency alerts turned on, because they can reach you as well. Your Peaks2Plains app. All those things are going to be really important, because you can't just talk about snowpack with El Nino and snowstorms. You got to talk about the fact that this could enhance the monsoon flow, and you don't want to be stuck with debris flow or any sort of instance like that when you're in a vulnerable situation in a camper in the high country in the middle of July, and that's scary. And that can happen in the middle of the night.
Right. And we've already had a couple of forest fires.
Right.
And my career as I was not a forest firefighter, but I was a firefighter, and I learned about forest fires. Mm-hmm. There used to be a forest fire season.
Yeah, that's gone.
The forest fire season is 12 months. Right. It's all year. I mean, they're now staffing tankers and helicopters year round. Here in Colorado, our helicopter is staffed year round. Mm-hmm. It just has to be, because we were fighting big fires in February on the Eastern Plains.
Right.
So forest fire season's year round. And the reason why I bring that up, and it's good you brought up the flooding, is when you have those fires, as we saw after Waldo Canyon, what happened the next year after those fires? We had a lot of rain, and that came with a tremendous amount of flooding, which is why Waldo Canyon been closed for so long, because people would go camping down in there, and the Forest Service was deathly afraid of anybody being in there and getting caught in something like that. It's scary as all get out. I mean,
Mary made a good point and kind of brought this up earlier about, when you go camping, you do end up in areas where there's not a lot of digital service.
Right.
And that's changing. People that camp a lot are probably going out there with Starlink or something. But you should have multiple ways to get warnings. And I would say you even have to prepare for that trip before you get there. Like, are you going into an area to camp where there was a fire in the last couple of years up that basin and how that water flows out of the mountains? And are you at risk if there is to be a heavy storm? Are there storms in the forecast? And so you need to be aware of that. I mean, it's situational awareness, I think, is something that we've lost a little bit in our society just because information comes at us so quick. But particularly given the changes that we're talking about here, I mean, if you're going camping in 2 weeks, start watching the weather forecast on Peaks2Plains. Are we confident in the pattern? Are we like, hey, well, we're not sure how next week's going to work out, because sometimes we're not, and hey, check back frequently. And just be aware before you even go out there, like, so you have a leg up before a warning or something is coming out.
I'm seeing more and more SUVs with the cell phone booster antennas on the back of them, and I've been looking at one of those too. They're ungodly expensive, but that's a great thing to have if you know you're going to be backcountry and your cell phone service may be sketchy. Those cell phone boosters, apparently in Teller County, all the sheriff's vehicles have those on them. Every one of them's got one of those. You can tell by the little antenna what looks like a can at the top of it. So I'm seeing more of that kind of stuff out there. But I think that the thing that is, what I'm looking at is we've got a season where our planning is flipped upside down. The dry weather, the dry winter is going to make backcountry stuff maybe accessible earlier. The forthcoming, when was the last time we had a real monsoon season here? It's been
a bit.
It's been a few years. So if you have just gotten to Colorado and the Pikes Peak region in the last couple of years, you have not seen a monsoon season.
Right.
And you're going to see one this year, and it's probably going to be worse than normal.
I want to speak to that really quick. Because this really was something that happened last year in Texas, and this was Texas, so this is the hill country. But there's a lot of social science out now that are studying how people respond to flooding and flash flood warnings, because the frequency of them can get to be so much that it kind of, people feel like it falls on deaf ears. But so here's what I would say to people who might be venturing into the high country and start getting multiple flash flood warnings. It's like, okay, well, which one do I listen to? You should listen to all of them, first of all, especially if it's in the middle of the night. But the one thing I would say is I don't think people realize that when the National Weather Service, that local office, is forecasting that flash flood warning, they're not where you are. They're giving you the best information possible for you to save yourself or to make that decision, but you're the eyes and ears, right? And so you really have to listen to every single flash flood warning. If I were to go camping in the high country with my family this year, knowing what I know about the atmosphere, what could be happening, and I saw a training of thunderstorms coming, which is like train cars in a line one after the other, I would tell my husband, we're going to just sleep at higher ground. We're not doing this. We're not doing valley locations, okay? I'm just not going to risk it because it can happen so fast. And the second point is because we live in a subarid climate, it doesn't necessarily take a charred ground and a fire to cause the debris flow. I mean, water's going to find the path of least resistance, right? So if you're in a valley location and you've got thunderstorms and you've got light winds, that thunderstorm's not moving, that water's still coming for you, whether you got a forest fire that was there or not. So all those things, like you said, and you're well seasoned, you have to think about. You can think, well, I've done this for years, but people in Texas said that too. Look what happened in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a different situation, but largely similar in the fact that surprises can come, and they often come at night when your guard's down.
And Matt and I, you've talked in previous podcasts about how, to go to Mary's point, about how we have mountains and valleys and low points and high points that satellite imagery may not be able to get a good picture of. Radar definitely doesn't hit those places really well. And what makes weather forecasting and trip planning a challenge here. Because if I'm looking at the app and I look at the weather radar, I can see kind of areas in there where that radar is shadowed and it's not picking it up. But if I'm going in that area, I really need to have my eyes out there to pay attention on what's going on. So as much as this technology is awesome, it is by no means, to your point, Mary, it's no means infallible at all.
You know, after the Texas tragedy, my son went to Catalina Island on a field trip, and I just didn't trust anyone at that point for my son's safety. So I gave him a NOAA weather radio. He said, and then they told me that, well, they have him already, you know, because anything can happen. I mean, it was Catalina, but, you know, things can happen in Catalina as well with tsunamis and earthquakes, all kinds of stuff. But we had that NOAA weather radio set up in the house, and the kids got to get used to it going off. And I told the kids, it's scary, a little scary for them at first, because it's a little bit of an alarming, if you haven't never heard it. But it operates off satellite. Does it not?
No, I'm rolling my eyes at my dog.
Oh, the dog,
That's upstairs, losing his mind.
So,
Banjo's upset.
He's
I think
upset.
it's another frequency.
It's actually VHF, I believe, just did work on.
Yes, sorry. Correct. You're absolutely right. But having that in the high country is the best thing you can have, and I'm a big proponent of that. Peak alerts, Peaks2Plains, and WIA alerts are all necessary, but the NOAA weather radio, you can buy one for $30 on Amazon. And it has the crank if the battery goes dead. So that is something every camper, I think most campers have, but if you're an amateur camper, you know, you want to equip yourself with.
I've got a NOAA weather radio in the house. And being an old firefighter, I still have a police scanner in my car, and it's got a button I hit for weather, and it just scans.
I agree
through
with
the local
Mary. Like
frequency.
she's making the point that like you need to have multiple ways to get alerts because they're all technology driven. Technology can fail. Power can go out on a transmitter. You know, Peaks2Plains, we may have something that goes down. So you need to have redundancy.
Your internet could go out. And you're out.
Because you are not, like, the government's not responsible for you. The sheriff office is not responsible for you. Like, Bob is responsible for Bob and his family. Matt's responsible for Matt and his family. And, like, that's the... And that goes back to a constant theme I have on this podcast, whether it's I'm talking with an expert or I'm talking with you know, Kevin, my co-host, is you need to be aware of what's going on around you. Your head should be on a swivel. I should be around. We're listening to Banjo upstairs, who's having a ruckus. They're used to hear. They're used to hear.
It's okay.
They're used to hearing coal bark in the background on this. And so yeah, you do need to be prepared for everything. But I guess, you know, my whole point of having you guys on here was to really put some perspective behind all this hype we're hearing about the El Nino and the super El Nino. And just to give people a heads up that when I wrote that column, I was kind of pulling it half out of my head, but I wasn't far off. I mean, I can kind of read the tea leaves here a little bit. What does this mean going into the winter? Can we, and again, the disclaimer here is we're still talking 6-8 months down the road. So we're talking way down the road for the listener. Don't count on anything we're saying here, but just a heads up. What does this mean for the winter? Are we finally going to have a winter where skiing is going to be something as opposed to most of them being closed like they were this year?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think normal would look impressive after this year. Right. But, I mean, odds are, from what we know and how El Nino impacts or tends to, you know, when we go back and look at the data and we correlate things like high snowpack years with an El Nino, the odds are, like, if you made me bet, if we were at a roulette table, weather roulette, like, I'm pushing all on red, right? Like,
You make a good point about this, you know, quote unquote super El Nino, about how it can almost overcorrect for us here, and it can dig those jet streams too far south, and then we end up
in no man's land for the other reason.
And that would not be great either.
And I guess that's kind of the message that kind of has gotten lost in this.
I think so.
Is that we're thinking that we're going to get hammered here, but if it's too much, say the temperature goes up another degree, and I'm just pulling this out of my head. Temperature goes up another degree, gets too strong and pushes it south.
Yeah.
we may end up with nothing.
The Mexican plateau is getting snow, not
Right,
us.
right.
Right.
So-
Well, and there have been, I mean, at least a month worth of model runs now where in the ensembles, some of these outliers are at 4 degrees. And, you know, there's been enough of them that people are looking at them and talking about it. But the way that math works and forecasting, I mean, very rarely, you know, are the edges of the data envelope where you end up. Right.
It's a bell. It's
but
kind of like a bell curve.
Right. But it's a possibility. And so you want to be aware of that. And if in another month, because there is some forecast, like it's a dead zone coming out of winter here in the spring where their ability to forecast the strength is not as strong as it is when you get into late June, looking toward the winter months. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on here over the next 6 weeks. But it is, I mean, there's been enough data there that people are like, man, this one might be particularly strong.
Is this early for an El Nino to hit early in the year, or is this about normal?
I wouldn't have enough information to answer that accurately, but so I
don't know.
I mean, if I worked for the climatology office, I that's something I should know, but I really don't know.
Okay.
I know from living here for the past 13 years, I typically have more experienced it in the winter, but I know that's not the only time.
Right.
I mean, the seasons, the pattern, the oscillation and the pattern's going to change when it's going to change. Okay. So I'm sure there's a lot of data on El Nino's happening in the summer. I just don't remember it in recent memory.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it to know what that is.
Well, and it's really, I mean, seasonal forecasting and talking about this stuff, like as she mentioned, it is out of our wheelhouse. I mean, we have more exposure to it, obviously, but it is a very different set of data and analytical tools and what is driving that than like short-term weather forecasting from next hour to 10 days out, which is kind of what we focus on because that's what impacts life in the immediate. I mean, we can talk about what happens 6 months from now. And there are people, seasonal forecasting is growing because people that are buying futures of electricity and buying things like storing up feed and that kind of thing. Obviously, there's an interest in it. But, you know, our bread and butter is the short term.
Yeah.
I imagine people who are, like you said, in the energy business, are we going to have a bigger winter? Do I need to start buying
heating oil
and reserving gas, natural gas and the electrical grid and all that kind of stuff, and way over my head to understand.
I always like to talk to people exactly how I would talk to my family or plan with my husband. And I would say if somebody wanted to go ahead and pull the plug on that, maybe wait until June, July, see how things are going. It's never a bad idea to have those things.
Right.
You can have anomaly years where you have this super El Nino and it just, like Matt said, it just bypasses our area because it digs too far south. But when you look at weather and on TV or on our app, and you see the meteorologist talking about the jet stream, always, I mean, this is more so for your listeners, always think of that as the highway of weather. You need that highway. We need that highway to come south. And we don't want it too far south.
So if that jet stream is coming right over us, things are going to happen.
Things should happen. I mean, if you get a good jet streak, but you need the jet stream to kind of dig across New Mexico and then arch back up, with those winds out of the east.
So you want one coming out of the south for us instead of one coming out of the north, which we've been getting.
Particularly like for Colorado Springs. Right. I mean, it's hard, I've decided, for Colorado Springs to get a good snow because these things got to be in exactly the right place. They have to be mature while they're still west of us, not maturing on top of us or just east of us. We end up not getting much in those cases. And so like this window of perfection for if downtown Colorado Springs is going to get a foot of snow, it's hard, right? With this big mountain west of us, this hill north of us. It's tough. It really is tough.
The hill he's talking about is the Palmer Divide.
Right. I just assume everybody.
It's amazing how that 7,000-foot hill makes such a big difference.
You're the native here, so I have to make sure people. But I always think Marty Vinicique. He's such a great dude. You and Marty, just know your stuff here in Southern Colorado. I always love the way Marty would explain it, and that is the Eastern Plains. It's a big ramp, and you need that lift. That gradual lift. So the mountains are a lifting mechanism. Right. People will look at the plains, they don't think of it as a lifting mechanism. But when your winds are coming out of the east, they're kind of coming from Kansas and they're gliding up that ramp. that's where you get all of that east wind. That's where it hammers Colorado Springs south. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what do we call it? Upslope?
Upslope flow. You can get upslope flow hitting the Palmer Divide, and that hammers Black Forest in northern El Paso County because of the hill he's talking about. But that ramp across the eastern plains, if you're going to get those due wind, just right due east wind, that low has got to be down in Albuquerque. It's got to be down in New Mexico. It's got to be a mature surface low.
And for listeners who are maybe new here, an Albuquerque low is one that the low pressure system sits in the winter over Albuquerque or generally that part of New Mexico.
Right.
And the way it cycles, it sucks up moisture from the Gulf, spews it up this way where it hits the cold weather, butts up against the mountains, so it gets stuck here. And generally is what brings us the big snowstorms.
Right, which is why I talked about like if it is mature before it sort of gets here, because those tend to be moving slower than if it's in the process of maturing. And when you get it in that right spot and it is a mature storm, not only do you have this moisture transport and this physical lift at the surface, but there's diffluence happening up top. I mean, the three-dimensional atmospheric layer ends up being filled with lift. And so if you can be lifting everything from the surface up to almost the top of the troposphere, you are in business.
Right.
And 50, 70 miles can make a big difference. We've seen that before, you know. So it's tough to get a big storm here, but like she said, when the jet stream's in the vicinity, at least you have waves moving through and you have a better opportunity for one of those things to kind of pop off.
I'm thinking of the blizzard that hit here in October of 97, which, I mean, you couldn't get from Colorado Springs to Pueblo for 4 days.
Right.
It took CDOT that long to clear the highway.
Which is crazy.
There was snow.
That year.
That's crazy.
What were we in?
That was
Before I was here. Because
I
you can
think
have big
86
blizzards in La Nina, you
Yeah.
just don't have them as frequently.
and I don't remember what that system was.
I
I just remember
86, 87 was El Nino. Or 97, sorry, 96, 97, sorry.
and it was days before people get out of their homes. It was
Off a decade. There's Meister. He's just off a decade.
I was
Sorry.
we were kids then.
what's 10 years amongst friends, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Guys, this has been a great podcast. This has been some great information. I think it's going to help people who are looking forward to, well, it's going to get through all the stuff we've been hearing, all the noise
Right.
about this. Having two experts here who know this weather better than, well, certainly than I do, and then people writing this weather from 1,000 miles away who have never been to Colorado.
Right.
And for people planning their outdoor recreation, this is going to give them some good context with what to go with. My view right now is I'm probably not going to change much of anything, but in 60 days or 30 days from now, I'm going to take a look at things again.
Right.
And 45 days from now, I'm going to look at things again.
Here's the thing about seasonal forecasting, though, right? Even if we're talking about, we get to June, we get to July, we're still seeing this El Nino, and we're sitting here saying, yeah, odds are we're going to have a higher than normal snowpack this year and a higher frequency of storms. If you're going camping for 4 days, you may still be in a little stretch where nothing's happening. Right? So it doesn't guarantee that because you're going camping, you're going to get hit by a monsoon that weekend. There's still variability in there. It's just like there's probably a higher frequency of more impact weather than in a La Nina year because the jet stream's not around.
If I was a betting woman, I would bet on this summer and this fall being interesting. So we can't really tell you, hey, this is what you should do right now. But if you're going to put all your chips in, I think this is the year to do it.
It's going to be a fun year.
There is the possibility it could overcorrect and, we don't really see much of anything. But I think by late summer, we should see things start to ramp up. So if I'm betting on that, that's what I'm betting.
So you're going to be a lot happier you have a ski pass next winter than you were this year.
I bought a ski pass for the first time ever.
Yeah, how expensive was that? Because
it was
probably
over
didn't go much.
$500 and we didn't go at all.
Yeah,
and I got pregnant.
I think
darn it.
Way to plan.
I know, right?
Can't help you with that part. The last couple of winters, I've hardly brought out my snowshoes.
Right.
You need a good 8 inches or so of snow, and then you got to. It's been so infrequent that if you weren't out there that day, a couple of days it was gone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Someday we need to have a discussion. Too long for today's podcast. I'm taking up a lot of your guys' time on the difference between weather and climate.
We were dabbling in it today.
We were kind of touching on that, but is a big difference. People,
Oh, yeah.
weather forecasting, climate forecasting, or being a climatologist. But yeah, the difference between weather and climate is something we should.
They are not the same.
They are not the same thing, and people have a hard time when we're talking about global warming or climate change, and then you have a blizzard. See, I told you it wasn't warming up. That's not the same thing.
Right? Yeah.
Those are not the same thing.
True, Bob.
And it's hard to explain that to people. And again, you talked about, looking at a 4-day thing. My opinion has always been any forecast that's more than 3 days out is, if you're talking what's going to be next week, you could probably kind of look at that, but I don't bank on anything. My personal thing is more that you guys do great work, but as we know, the weather changes so rapidly here. I look 3 days out. If it's something I want to do 5 days, 6 days, 7 days out,
Keep checking.
I'll look at it, but I'm not banking on that till I'm more like at the 3 day.
You keep
point.
opening that Peaks2Plains Weather app.
I do, yes, sir. I do. Well, Matt and Mary, it has been so much fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's good to have the experts on here. Mary, it's so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you
After
too.
years of following you and watching what you do. I love your sense of humor on your social
Isn't she
media.
great?
She's a riot.
I love it.
My wife was like, "You're going to meet Mary?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." She goes, "She's a riot." I go, "I know she is."
My husband says that about me from time to time.
But he might not mean it in the same way, right?
It's funny because people always. My son asked me today. He's like, "How did you ever get the courage to just be like that on TV?" And I said, "Son, I just pretend like no one's watching."
Yeah.
Because I largely assume no one is. But so then you just start. I'm more so entertaining myself.
Right.
And then when I hear what your wife said or what people say, I'm like, well, maybe I guess people are. It's resonating.
You know what works about what Mary does, and this is why I'm so honored to be doing this with her, is she's genuine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that when people aren't genuine, that jumps out of the screen.
Right.
And so that's what I told people younger in career, just be you, because you can't not. It works. It's too hard to fake it.
Right.
Yeah.
And people can tell.
Right.
So just be you. Mary is quirky. She's goofy. She's fun. She's opinionated. And that works. And it's fun to watch. She's highly intelligent, a great weather forecaster. So that, it's a great package to have on Peaks2Plains Weather and kind of fits with what we're going for.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And none of it takes away that you guys are the experts in the field. You can be genuine, you can be funny, you could do all that stuff when you're still the experts in the field and people trust you for what you have to say.
Yeah. Sometimes you're talking to people that have just been sitting at home alone for a long time. And they, just being yourself makes them feel less alone. And then you're talking about the weather, it's just better. It's like you're
You
sitting
kind of
in the
got a
front.
little pouty face when you said that.
Well, they do.
I know.
I worry about because my mom sits at home alone a lot. And, I want people to feel like we're sitting on the front porch having sweet tea talking about how much we needed this.
There you go.
It's raining.
I had somebody early in my career say, act like you're telling your mom
Right.
about the weather.
That's
That's
great.
exactly what
Yeah.
you're going to right
That
there.
probably
right?
kept-
Like over a cup of coffee or over sweet tea from where you're from.
That's what keeps me from making this podcast R-rated. Is I think I'm talking to my mom.
That's funny. That's funny.
Always
There
got
you
to think
go.
about mom.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I think that's what our approach is, and we say our weather together, we don't mean Mary and I.
Yeah.
It's all of us.
You're serious.
We're not going to hype things. If it looks like it's going to be rough, we're going to tell you it's going to be rough. But we're going to put our arm around you and we're going to walk through it together like a neighbor, not like a bomb cyclone's coming and you're going to. That hype stuff drives us both nuts.
Yeah,
We don't
it
like
does.
it.
Well, and that's what leads to what you were saying, Mary, about people ignoring alerts because they're so used to being overhyped and then it may not be anything.
Yeah.
And that's weather, people. Not everything comes as predicted, but when you overhype it, then people ignore when it's something
know.
serious is coming. So
There's
when you
a
have
lot
it,
of social research that still needs to go into that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's outside of my jurisdiction,
Yeah.
but I can understand how people do.
What are you, a police department? You
Well,
got a jurisdiction?
Sorry. You know what I mean? It's just not, I don't want to talk and
like, let me
act
see
like
your
I know
weather
something
badge.
I don't, but I have covered, not to circle back because I know we're wrapping things up.
right,
When I worked national for 6 years, I covered a lot of really horrific tragedies on flooding. Stuff that sat with me for months and months. It still does. Kids that weren't found, that the whole house got picked up and moved down the river. I still think about, the Blanco River in Texas. I mean, that was way back in 2017 in Wimberley, Texas. That still haunts me
right.
because that whole family was on the phone as the whole house was moving down the river begging for help, and they all passed away except for the dad. So anyway, my point is I've covered a lot of that stuff, and I just don't want to ever see it happen to people. So I would say when something says move to higher ground, just do it, even if it's a pain in the butt. Just keep doing it.
And I do the same thing with my stuff, with people being prepared out there.
Right.
Plan for I was a firefighter for four decades.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And our job was we planned for the worst and hope for the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
So people say, why do you show up with 7 fire trucks at a small kitchen fire and you have all that gear on? Well, because we came in as a kitchen fire, but it could have been the whole house.
Sure.
We don't want it to be the whole house.
Right.
So we send everything, and then what we don't need, we send back, but we show up with everything so that we're planning for the worst, prepared for the worst, and then if it turns out to be the best possible outcome,
easy to ratchet down.
Yeah,
right?
it's
versus
easy.
play
It's
catch
a
up.
whole lot easier to do that than catch up. Same thing goes with this. You guys, this has been a great conversation. I think it's going to help people plan. It's going to help cut through all that stuff we're hearing about what's coming this year.
I hope so.
No matter what happens, though, we are going to see a change. This is not going to be a summer like last summer. Not likely. Probably going to be not the same winter as what we've just experienced.
Right.
It's going to be hard to be that bad. As
You
this
know what
past
they say,
winter.
Bob? The one constant is change.
Is change.
There you
That's
go.
exactly it.
Graduation
I know,
speech.
hey, right?
Matt and Mary, thank you so much for being on the
Bob,
podcast.
thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And everyone out there, thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you next time.